Hi, I'm Brittany Pacheco.
And I'm Elliot slash Luan slash Marion slash Sean Cooper.
Cooper, not Wallace Cooper. We're not hyphening it.
No, no, not today. Maybe next week.
Oh, man. And we are the two watchers in the basement. Today, Frank and I are back after a little bit of a hiatus from Gangs of London. You know, life happens, y'all, and got to take care of what you got to take care of. But we are back to talk about not one, not two, but three Gangs of London episodes. Frank, I mean, I know we can watch the whole season two, because it's premiered in London
Hmm.
already, or in the UK earlier this year. We have access to seeing all this, but we're still going to give our audience, kind of a breakdown for each weekly episode, if you will, which is premiering on AMC. So that being said, Frank, we're going to dive
AMC
right into it.
Plus.
AMC Plus. You are correct. Thank you for the correction. Shout out
Hmm.
to Frank for hooking it up. Um, but we are going to just dive right into it, and we're going to talk about just the main highlights of every of these three episodes. Frank, we got to talk about the big reveal at the end of episode 2. Your boy, your boy Sean Wallace is back.
He's back, man. He's back. And you know what's crazy is that George called, like, so we saw the episode before George did, and
We
George
did.
watched it like an hour later. And before he watched that episode 2, he was like, "Man, I bet you the dude in the red car is Sean Wallace." I was like, "Wait, what? How? No way!" I mean, we knew already, but I was not expecting that because I watched the season 1 finale 3 times,
Hmm.
and because I just love the finale so much. And Elliot shot the man in the face, and he was
Yes, he did.
bleeding profusely on the ground, and we didn't see any help, no aid coming to his side to like rush him to the hospital. But
Right.
as we watch episode, as we what's episode 3? I guess we'll get that later. How he got to the hospital and stuff. But with the blood loss, the headshot, not many people can survive a shot to the head or a shot to the face. So
Yeah.
it makes me wonder if Elliot did it on purpose to like keep him alive, because he's a straight shooter, literally. Like, he don't miss his
Yeah.
targets. So it makes me wonder if he did it on purpose, because I know something from the end going back to the beginning, but when when Sean pulls Billy out of the water, 'cause Billy tried to kill Elliot, you see Elliot like looking down and he sees who's pulling him out of the water, but like
Hmm.
he wasn't surprised. He was kind of like,
Like, oh
bet,
shit.
yeah, like fuck.
Yeah.
So it makes me wonder if he did it on purpose or not.
It's funny how you mentioned that, because that is kind of later addressed in one of the episodes, and we'll get to that. But looking back on it with the gunshot, because like you said, Elliot's a marksman. Like, he's a straight shooter. He's got the training. He knows what he's doing. And then it made me wonder, like, did we ever see an exit wound? So was the bullet just stuck, not stuck, but just in his mouth, or like, was there an exit wound from the, opposite side? And it didn't appear to be, from what we saw for the season finale of season 1. So yeah, you're left to believe that Sean is dead, and rightfully so, because so much blood. And then I think Elliot had called it, saying Sean Wallace is dead. I repeat, Sean Wallace is dead, and that's what you're left to believe. But if we've learned anything from watching Game of Thrones, is that if you don't see a person die on screen, like actually see the death on screen, there's a good chance that they are alive. And in this case, it's exactly what happened with Sean. So big, big, like, shocker, because when you watched the episode, you watched it before I did. Certainly watched it before George did. And it's so crazy that George called it. But when you watched it and you called me and you went all Mexican on me, like Brittany, Cardenas, Pacheco, Martinez, Rodriguez, whatever, like, oh my God. And I'm like, wait a minute, I'm not there yet. I'm not there yet. And then when I watched it, I call you back and I'm like, Frank, middle name I can't pronounce, Cooper, T'Chaka, like Black Panther, like, I mean, that was a huge, huge reveal. And I mean, to bring back Sean Wallace, because you've said it before. How the hell are you going to kill off the main character after one season?
Hmm.
So were you just happy to thus far see him come back, and then it didn't matter what kind of story we were going to get about or explanation about him coming back. You're just happy that he came back, right?
Yeah, but like to go back to your first point about like the show being like Game of Thrones and people, you have to actually see people die on screen and like draw their last breath.
Yeah.
Um, it makes sense because in Gangs of London, these murders are very violent, right? Like people are getting exploded, people getting decapitated, heads exploding, people falling off, getting pushed off bridges. Like it's so to see Sean go out like that, I was like, man, that's it doesn't go with the pattern of like these violent deaths that we've seen thus far in this series.
I mean, getting
So
shot in the face is still pretty bad, though. It's pretty
it's
violent.
it's bad in a normal gang show, but in
Fair.
season one alone, we saw a guy get his head exploded with a red radar machine gun in the alleyway. We saw Sean, the opening scene of episode one. Sean is
Yeah,
lighting somebody on fire as he's hanging upside down for a skyscraper. You
true.
see a guy get butchered with a butcher knife. You see, like
Yeah.
you saw Elliot murder somebody with a dart, like hitting the vessel, like so, like that was like a model, a very mild death that we saw in the finale compared to what we saw in the first season.
That's true.
So, seeing that, but like, with Sean, man, I'm glad because Sean, I like disruptive characters. So,
Mm.
and Sean he's a loose cannon, he's a hothead. Every scene that he's in, you don't know what he's gonna do, which
Oh,
makes the show even better because he's so unpredictable.
yes.
And again, he's a character who's trying to fill the shoes of a legend who ran London for years, and Finn
Yep.
Wallace. So
Mhm.
and like it's a convoluted thing because he's not ready, but it's like he's the heir in a way, and at the
Right.
same time he's trying to find his footing while not being ready, which makes the show even crazier. Like it's kind of like in Game of Thrones where a king gets killed and like his 9-year-old son becomes king. You know, damn, he ain't fucking ready. That's
Yeah.
why I kind of see with Sean, like he's so immature, and everything is it's shoot first, ask questions later. So see him trying to find his footing in this series while trying to take back the streets of London, while working against the investors and other interests that's trying to take him out as well. It just makes it for a crazy, titillating story.
Absolutely, for sure. And you hit on a lot of great points that, we're going to get through this pod talking about episodes 2, 3, and 4 for season 2. So, with his return, we get the explanation about who's been doing all of these violent crimes against like Koba and like other people who were part of the Wallace organization, in the form of knowing that the shooter is driving a red car, and that's all Sean. Sean has completely just taken all these people out violently to the face, like gunshots through the eye, I guess in a way kind of like, this is what happened to me. I got shot in the face, so I'm going to do the same to like everybody else and just kind of get like my retaliation in that sort of sense. But obviously like his big beef, knowing that he's back, is going to be with Elliot, because Elliot shot him in the motherfucking face and left him for dead. So, we get the answer about who's doing all these things in the red car. That's Sean. The other big reveal in episode 2 was seeing that Marian Wallace, the widow to Finn, is in cahoots with Finn's girlfriend, Floriana. Was that like a big shocker for you?
It was from the standpoint that Marion finds out about all of the infidelity, all of the drama after her husband dies. So, and we've seen how ruthless Mary can be. In episode 6 of season one, the woman, the waitress that she poses as a waitress, but she's really a mercenary, try to kill
Mm-hmm.
Sean. She has this woman standing on shattered glass. She's torturing her, just trying to get information of like who's behind all of this. So
Mm-hmm.
when you like, and that scene is so great because it shows the ruthlessness of not just Marion, but the Wallaces as in general.
Mm-hmm.
So to find out as a wife that your husband of 30 years or whatever has been cheating on you, not only cheating on you, but creating an exit strategy to take all this money and run away with their unborn child and her
Yep.
and her and a 21-year-old baby mama, or 22 year whatever, however old she is.
Yeah.
You would think that violence, that wrath would just scorch the earth. But I think if Florian didn't save her life, like she did in the finale, Marion probably would have killed her. But I feel like Marion has literally a second lease on life, like her son Sean. And now she's like, well, shit, I have nothing left. Like my son at the time, my son is gone. My other son's a heroin addict. My daughter doesn't fuck with me anymore. I'm a grandmother. I can't see my grandchild. What can I do to try to mend this? And if this woman who saved my life for a reason, let me try my best to get the streets back and like get it back in my name, and try to get a piece of this pie that my dead husband left. So
Yeah, it was really interesting because obviously a wife would feel some type of way to learn of her husband's infidelity, let alone know the mistress, right? And the mistress who's with child, right?
hmm
So that's just a lot to deal with in itself. And yes, Floriana did save Marian's life at the end of season 1 when Ed Dumani shot Marian on the bench, right? Left her
hmm
for dead.
hmm
And so, to say the least, Marian owes Floriana her life, right? Because she obviously saved her life. And because Floriana has access to that bank account that Finn was using to, pull money away from the investors and had bukus of money. I can't even think about the amount right now. But you obviously need to use Floriana because she is the only one who has access to the bank account. Marion can't do anything, right? Her
hmm
name's not on their signature, thumbprint, nothing. Nothing whatsoever can be done on Marion's part. She has to have Floriana in her back pocket in order to get access to those funds and therefore be able to do deals with, arms merchants and then supply those arms to opposing gang members or
hmm
affiliates or whatever, especially with Luan. Luan is getting his arms from Marian and her suppliers, and so uh, it was
which is a ballsy move, by the way. That's a very
yeah,
ballsy move because Koba is literally running London right now. Koba has been hired by Asif through the investors. So to catch up a little bit in season two, Koba gets brought in. And we talk about Koba a little bit in episode one, season two. But Sean's been knocking off Koba's men. But Koba has created such a violent reputation in a very short period of time
yep,
to where no gang wants to fuck with him. So for Luan to have the balls to buy weapons outside of Koba's people shows you the desperation of Luan and shows
mm-hmm.
you how in a way that Luan and Marion both want Koba out of the picture because Koba is he's creating so much fear to where everything has to run through Koba now, and
Right,
nobody has the balls to go against him. So for Marion to do that shows me how much she don't give a fuck because he's ruthless.
yeah,
There's a line where so Koba finds out that Luan has been buying weapons outside of his network through Marianne, and Koba makes Luan call Marianne because at this point nobody knows where Marianne's at.
right,
She's in an undisclosed location, and so Koba makes Luan call Marianne. They get Marianne's location, and Luan's like just so upset because at this point Luan is like his wife is kidnapped at this point.
by Koba's
So
people.
by
Hmm.
Koba's people,
Yeah,
and he says, how could you mess with my family? That's so wrong. And the line this is how villainous Koba is. Koba says, if you're stupid enough to have a family in this life, in this world, they're fair game.
crazy.
When he said that, it sent chills through my body because even like in mob, like even with the Italian mob, you don't touch family members.
Yeah,
You don't do it. And with Koba's like fuck it, everybody's game. Whatever it takes to get to where I need to go, I would do it. If I could kill children, like I killed the neighborhood, the house family pet. R.I.P. to Luan's dog. Like they don't give a fuck.
so
He's
sad.
gonna do what he wants to do.
Yeah, and because of the fact that Koba doesn't have any like real allegiance to any of these families, these crime bosses. He's hired on, like you said, by Asif and the investors to protect their money and the interests, their interests and what have you. And so for him, like, there's really no real negotiation with him because he is just on a completely different level of making sure that the way that things are run here are ran correctly, right? There's rules. You go against the rules, you get punished, right? And we see that
Hmm.
definitely unfold. And then you look on the other side of things with Sean. Sean is just like out for blood. He's out for retaliation. He definitely wants to, knock off every single one of Koba's affiliates, people who've done the Wallaces wrong, and he's just, like you said, a loose cannon. So I mean, they're kind of similar in the sense, Koba and Sean. I mean, they're obviously very violent, if you will, but it's going to be interesting to see how things will progress more so, especially after watching episode 4, how things are going to go between these two men, because damn, it's wild.
Absolutely, absolutely. And so while all this crazy is going on, so we know Alex died in episode 1. He threw himself off a building at the end of the episode.
So crazy still.
Yeah, I couldn't believe it. Ed
Mm-mm.
finally finds out,
Yeah.
and the way Ed finds out is through Asif. Ed meets with Asif to talk about Kobe being a loose cannon, and how can we do to keep Kobe in check. And Asif's like, "Why are you even here? Like, have you not heard the news? The word?" He's like,
Yeah.
"What?" He's like, "Your son died. Alex killed himself last night. He threw himself off a building." And again, Mr. Saladin Stan himself from Game of Thrones, man, like the acting, the blank expression that he had was just truly amazing, because like he didn't want to show emotion, but him not want to show emotion, he showed sheer emotion of like sadness and grief and shock. And I love how the actor, like the guy who plays Ed, how it took him a while to process it, he's all Ed is always business oriented, no matter
Mm-hmm.
what, like no matter about retaliation, violence. Things got to be done through business in a business manner. You cannot use your personal emotions. And when it comes to this, anything that threatens the business as a whole needs to be eradicated. And that's the first time you see sheer emotion from him outside of like him being a business minded person.
Yeah.
And for a parent to lose a child, especially the only boy, I want to see how that affects him going forward, because that's a very dark moment in a parent's life.
Yeah, and I agree that it's definitely going to affect Ed in his dealings, his loyalty, making him second guess the things that he's doing and why, and how this really does impact people, and his performance as a whole with Lucian Msamati is the actor. I mean, to not react in that moment of just hearing that your only son has died, let alone killed himself, right? And then eventually he just lets it out when he does see Alex's body. Of course, we don't see the body, but
Thank
you
God.
oh, I know, I can't, oh, because he went splat. Okay,
Yeah.
he went splat. And then to see Ed Dumani just let it go, really, really just understand and grieve and just let all those emotions escape his body. And for me, I was on the verge of tears too, because I felt for this man. I felt for this man who lost his only son. And where do you go from there? Where do you go from that moment?
Let me ask you something, Brittany.
Mhm.
So we see in episode 1 of this season that the stress is just has gotten to Alex, like the pressure of like moving money around, being able to be a asset to the investors, wondering if he's going to be the next guy that gets killed by the investors.
Mhm.
He resorts to cocaine.
Yeah.
Do you think, in your opinion, if he's not on cocaine, does he commit suicide?
As George said in our previous chat, cocaine's a hell of a drug, y'all. I've never partaken and never will. So, people react differently, substance abuse or not.
Hmm.
When there's trauma, when there's great amount of stress in their lives, and when you think that, in like Alex's case, he's so close to getting themselves out, and then you realize you weren't even anywhere clear of the start line, like nowhere. It's really, it does a number on you, right? And you think, I've worked so hard for all of this, and for what? Nothing.
Hmm.
Nothing. Do I think, had he not been on cocaine, would he have made the decision to kill himself? The alternative would have been Elliot was going to finish him, because that was the reason why Elliot was there. Elliot's mark was Alex, based on the investors, right? The investors are giving Elliot orders. Hey, I need you to take care of this person, and so on and so on. And Alex is like, okay, either I do myself in, or Elliot's going to do me in. Either way, I'm gone.
Do you think Elliot goes through with it though?
It's hard to say, because I don't think Elliot wants to be a pawn anymore, especially with the investors. But at the same time, to convince Alex, again, if Alex had not been on cocaine, to convince Alex to join forces and to, talk to the right people, and get the information out there about the investors and just screw them over. I don't know, because Alex witnessed Elliot shoot and kill Sean. So there's a lot of factors that go into it.
But it's interesting because Elliot was supposed to kill uh Alex, but he lets Alex know like, hey man, I'm trying to get out too. Here's the USB drive. Let's get these the investors together. So it looked
Mm-hmm.
like he was trying to plan something to like get out, because Alex is a bright guy. Like Alex knows the ins and outs of the business.
Yeah.
He knows the I mean, he hasn't met the investors, but he knows their motivations. So
Mm-hmm.
he could have been a great asset to like to work with Elliot to expose them. And because it looked like Elliot was trying to give him the USB drive to like, hey man, you have the keys to the car. Let's expose these motherfuckers. And I
Yeah.
guess Alex was so overwhelmed, he just say, I can't do this, and ended his life.
However, Elliot was also brought into the Wallace organization on a pretense of, I'm here to help you. I'm here to do whatever it is you guys ask me to. And he's kind of built a relationship with the Wallaces as well as the Dumanis, especially with Shannon. So I think it would have been very difficult for Alex to really trust and believe Elliot with this talk of, I'm also trying to get out too, and then not be double crossed, and then Elliot do Alex in. You know what I'm saying? Like,
That's
I think
true.
it would have been a really difficult conversation. It would have been just something they would have had to work through. But I think at the end of the day, for Alex, it's like, either I can take things into my own hands, or I can let someone else decide it for me. And he made his decision.
For sure. So
Yeah.
to fast forward a little bit, so we know Floriana has the codes to the account that Finn left over for her and himself before Finn died.
Hmm.
So Asif knows about the account, but he doesn't have access, of course. But he knows the banker at this particular institution and he wants the codes. So he has lunch with this banker.
Was it the
And
banker or the lawyer?
was
I think it was a lawyer, because
was a
he
lawyer?
we see him later on in episode 4.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay, that's the guy. Okay, so
Yeah.
he has he has lunch with them, and he's asking for access, to that account, and he's like, "No, I can't do that. It's unprofessional. I'm not gonna betray the trust of my clients."
Hmm.
And I was like, "Cool." And before you know, like three henchmen come out of nowhere from behind, grab him from this is an old man, like probably in his 70s, grabs him by the throat, takes his hand, puts it on the table, takes a steak knife and pretty much just stabs him through the hand and splits his hand in half, literally.
Ugh. Ugh.
And
Cringe.
again, Asif is a ruthless person. Like this goes to the narrative of what Asif is. In season one, the flashback, Lolly's flashback. This
Hmm.
man barbecued Lolly's husband,
Yeah.
doing the war with the Turks, and
Yep.
now he's Asif is not above doing what it needs to do to get the job done, get whatever information he needs.
Yeah.
So now they have access, to these accounts through the lawyer.
Hmm.
So it makes me wonder where who gets to the money first and who's able to draw those accounts first, Floriana or Mr. Asif.
I'm just kind of surprised that like when that happened, because money's slowly being extracted from those accounts to give back to the investors, right? Because Finn stole from the investors. This is that whole problem. Do people not believe in like setting up notifications on their phones, like when money is being taken out of their accounts, and like did you do this, yes or no? Like, come on, people. Like, we live in an age of modern technology. Set up alerts, okay? Identity theft is a real crime.
Right.
Oh my god, that annoyed the mess out of me, and I'm like, seriously. Ugh, that just annoyed me. But then also, Frank, while that's happening too, when Billy, we get an update on Billy. He's uh living his best life with the sister, right, and what have you. But he eventually goes to his mother, right,
Mhm.
because word's gotten around that, hey, Elliot's back in London. Billy feels like a duty as the oldest brother of the Wallace family to avenge his brother, right? And so through Marian, he's kind of working with her people to get to Elliot so he can kill him, right? And in the end of episode 2, there's this really big, crazy fight shootout in like a fish market, right? And Sean pops up, kills his mark, which is what was his name? Bassam.
Bassam. Yeah, Bassam.
And Billy's there, encounters Elliot, who's there for his purposes, and Billy ends up getting shot. I don't know who actually shoots him. It was not Elliot for sure,
No,
but I think
he
it
was
was just
one of
kind
the
of
henchmen.
yeah, one of the henchmen. But at the very end of it, he's in the car. Somehow the car gets into like water, like at the dock. It was nuts. And
First off,
then
as a
go ahead.
getaway driver, why the fuck are you parked in a narrow ass alley with no way to turn? This is the Rick and Stark rule. Do not park in an alley where there's no way you can
Zigzag, bob and weave.
zigzag. You gotta zigzag, bruh. These dudes got AR-15s, machine guns, like
Yeah.
they can literally tear up a car. Why would you park there? I don't understand that.
Mhm. Mhm.
But
It's
I'm sorry, go
crazy.
ahead. Yeah.
No, go ahead. I mean, it's fine. So yeah, like Shooter. Well, Shooter does kill the driver, right? The getaway driver. And then, Billy's in the back of the car. It's going reverse. It goes into the water off the dock, right? And then the red car you see pulls up to the water on the opposite side and pulls Billy out of the water. It's none other than Sean. So brothers are united. Yay. Sean's back. We've already obviously talked about this extensively. So, but just had to kind of throw it in there about Billy and Marion because that does play a part in future episodes. So
For
let's
sure.
go ahead, Frank. If there isn't anything else you want to talk about episode 2, let's go ahead and talk about episode 3,
Let's get it. Let's get it.
which started off with 12 months prior to the present day gangs of London. It's picking up from the Hotel Renoir, where Sean was shot in the face. And we get the background story of what happened to him since then, right? It was Lale. I told you. I figured it was Lale who like somehow got him out and, tried to save his life. And then they get shot at. They get shot at. It's like, well, what the fuck? Like all of this endless shooting and like people kidnapping other people. And
That was a
next thing,
stressful 90-second montage.
no shit. Seriously. I'm like, I'm thinking, did we just watch like the Winter Soldier, with Bucky and like, shit like that? I kind of felt like that. I kind of felt like he was taken to Serbia and, imprisoned or whatever. But yeah, so Lale and Sean are imprisoned for about roughly 9 months. Okay. But what we come to find out is that it's not it's not like a police agency that's holding them. It's kind of like more of a secret group of people
Like, off the books.
off the books. They're
Yeah.
kind of for the government or of the government, but like they're really not. So it's not like MI6 or anything like that. It's maybe a different division, but it's led up by the same motherfucker that Elliot works for,
That boy
Singer.
Singer. That boy Singer.
And when I saw him sit down at the table with Sean to like negotiate about, okay, we'll release you, but you need to work for us. You need to do this, and this. And I saw the man sit down. I'm like, this isn't the same motherfucker, is he? And then they flash back to, when he was torturing Elliot and how he's like, I've been working this case on the Wallaces for years. Like, you have no idea what you're in.
Mhm.
And I'm like, it is the same motherfucker. Talk about for you, like, to understand now that both Elliot and Sean are working for the same person.
Yeah, so the connection is crazy. So like you said, pretty much this off the books division that's adjacent from the London authorities is like really trying to bring down, not even trying to bring down the gangs. They want a controlling leader on head of the gangs. So this montage of Sean like in prison and trying to in a cell trying to get his life back together. He looks like he has real bad PTSD from being shot. His hands are
Oof.
shaking. He's getting beat up. He won't every time they single calls for him to try to get him to talk, he won't talk, and so he gets beat up again, goes back in the cell. So
He's like
finally,
foaming at the mouth at one
yeah.
point.
I mean, I'm sure he has a couple of seizures. He had a couple of brain minimal
Brain
brain damage.
injuries.
Yeah, brain
Yeah.
injuries, all
Yeah.
of that. Probably so concussions, all of that. So finally, I might have been the third or fourth attempt. Sean finally talks to the singer. At this
Mm-hmm.
point, Sean has no idea who he is. He just knows that they have him captive, and he pretty much tells him who he is,
Yeah.
and that he's like, "Look, we want you back as the main mob boss for the gangs under one condition.
Mm-hmm.
We want the investors gone, but we're going to keep tabs on you. So if we put you at the helm back at the helm of this network, you're gonna have to answer to us, which essentially will make Sean a snitch and an informant in a way.
Yes.
So and
And we
mind
all
you,
know what happens to snitches.
absolutely, and a Wallace
Oh,
answer to authorities or authorities adjacent is just not the Wallace way.
no.
So he lets them know that he's also working with. I don't, did he tell him that he was working with Elliot as well? I can't remember that part.
No. No,
Okay, so
at that conversation, no, it was not revealed. It's just we as the audience know, okay, Elliot works for Singer because we've seen him plenty of times, and then now we know that Sean is essentially working for Singer too. But Sean has his own agenda as
yeah,
well.
absolutely.
He basically says, kind of quoting it back to them about, we want you to testify, we want your intel, but you're going to be a ghost, you're going to be anonymous. It's like you haven't come back from the grave or anything like that. And
Hmm.
Sean kind of threw it back at them. It's like, but you need a king, like you need a return of a king. And I'm like, whoa, 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 whoa. You were not that guy. Okay, your daddy might have been, but you, sir, are not that guy. Ghost, sure, it's been almost a year since you were presumed dead, right? You've had no contact with family, whatever. But the fact that Sean wants to take back London his own way and have the retaliation is wild. Like, that guy is gonna just lose his fucking shit, and we see just little hints of that here and there.
Yeah, but and what's amazing as well, they give him the resources. Like they give him a gang to work with. He want
Lale.
Sean wants
Hmm.
Lolly. Somehow Sean knows Lolly's alive, so he's like, man, under one condition, I get Lolly too. So
Yeah.
he gets Lolly, who's a Kurdish freedom fighter.
Hmm.
Say it three times as fast.
No.
And so now you have a network. You have Lolly by your side. Now they can operate under the schemes of like going against Koba and the rest of the investors.
Hmm.
So it made me wonder too how is Sean going to get out of this, because I
Yeah.
can't see a Wallace being under the thumb of the London authorities. So it makes me wonder that too, for how long that's going to last.
Well, I kind of relate it to even like with Elliot, because Elliot wants out, right? We know that
Hmm.
as much. He wants out from having to work with the investors. He wants out from, working with Koba. He wants out for everything. Like he just wants to be out, right? So, on the side, Elliot's making negotiations for himself and his dad, right? But like, it's like while he's trying to get out, Sean is in, right? I mean, he wants out in theory, but like he's
Hmm.
in because he knows the resources that are available to him at the time, because he has not revealed to his family that he's alive. So when Sean does make that phone call to his mother through Billy, right? And she's just like oh my God, like I'm talking to my dead son, or who I thought was my dead son, but he's like warning her, hey, Koba's coming after you. Like you need to get out of wherever you are. And mind you, Floriana's there, the baby is there as well. And so damn, Koba and his people like do not play any games. You get like this like military grade type helicopter coming in with the machine gun, and dude is just blowing up everybody, cars, people, the house. And I mean, Marion and Floriana and the baby escape, and they're picked up by Lale's people and brought to, you know, their hideout or whatever you want to call it. And that's how the Wallaces really all reunite. But then when Sean meets Floriana, I'm like, oh, the crazy is beginning. I mean, did you get that vibe too when he meets her and holds the baby and talking about, oh, she didn't get the Wallace look or the Wallace eyes, like lucky her. And I'm like, oh, what is happening?
Yeah, I automatically when I saw that scene, I automatically said to myself, Sean is creating an exit strategy to get rid of Floriana. He is she is in the way.
Yep.
They want controlling interest, and with controlling interest, you need guns, you need weapons and money, and
Yep.
Floriana has the money. So I already knew. I mean, Sean's not gonna harm a child, but as far as Floriana, I don't think so because that child's a Wallace. That child's he's a Wallace bastard, but the child's a Wallace, and like
Yeah.
and Marion wouldn't let that go down anyways. Because Marion, I mean, Marion, unlike which is crazy because unlike Catelyn Stark, who she also played in Game of Thrones, she actually has an affection for this child. So it's
Yeah.
like 6 degrees of separation in a way. It's kind of amazing. And
I know. It's like Catelyn, I need you to have learned something from Marion Wallace. As crazy as she may be, you could have learned to like love another woman's child.
absolutely,
And
absolutely.
all that shit wouldn't have had to happen to John and Daenerys. And I digress. No, but for but for Sean to be back in the picture, now Floriana is kind of seeing like this is presenting a problem between
Hmm.
herself and Marion Wallace, because, like you said, Floriana controls the money. Marion needs her in her corner to support with the arms dealing and all that. And when it's openly discussed about, hey, if when Sean asks you the money or for the money, I'm gonna say no because I don't think this is a good idea. And Marion's like, this is not gonna happen. Well, it does fucking happen. Sean does basically, you know, say to his mother, like, hey, I'm sorry for everything. I'm sorry I didn't tell you I was alive, but I need dad's money. You know, I need dad's money in order to do the things that I need to do, because I've also made promises. I've made promises to Lale, who, you know, her people are working for Koba and are not making much of a profit,
And
you know,
working 8 to 8 hours a day. I think
10
to 10 hours, and then they moved it to 12 at one point.
maybe, but
Yeah.
yeah. So, you know, Lale is not in the business to have power or strength or anything like that. She's doing it to free her people, right? Back
Mm.
home. And that's her whole motivation. Like I can respect that. I can respect that. I don't agree with the means of doing it, but I respect, you know, her philosophy of wanting to save her people. Um, but
And it's personal because
yeah, exactly.
Koba's taking a big chunk of a lot of these people's profit, which is going to Asif as well. So Asif, who
Yes.
killed your husband, is getting a big chunk of your profit of your people working 10, 12
Yes.
hours a day,
Hmm.
packing in these drugs. So yeah, it's personal at this point.
It's extremely personal. And because the Wallaces are now in their hideout, it's presenting a new problem because Koba's people are obviously looking for Marion Wallace because she escaped, right? And it's just a big safety issue. And so when Lale pretty much confronts Sean to say like, hey, listen, you know, this isn't working out anymore. You know, we have our own agenda. Like y'all need to step away. And he's making promises. He's like, I promise that I will support, you know, your cause, give your people arms, you know, the money and this and that. And she's like, okay,
Hmm.
you know, we'll see. So now he's making promises of things that don't actually belong to him,
Not at all.
monetary or otherwise, right? And so when he does ask his mother for the money, it's like, shit, this is the thing that Floriana had said was going to happen, right? And you know, it's going to be an issue, of course, because then we'll see that Floriana has her own agenda, with the money. Good God. We'll
Yeah.
we'll we'll put a pin in that real quick. There's some other things that happened in between that I'd like to talk about first, because I think
Hmm.
the ending for episode 3 was incredible. I
Hmm.
just didn't see it coming, but damn. Okay.
Hmm.
In in the midst of all that, we do see a reunion between Sean and Elliot. Answer me this question, Frank.
Hmm.
How the fuck did Elliot know where to find Sean? Because he's tailing him.
The only way I could even figure that out is that in episode 2 they used CCTV to locate the car when Sean killed those men.
Right.
I think it was Somali men. He got the paint. He scraped up the paint evidence off his cars. I think off of Koba's car. So either he saw CCTV and found because I think he lied to Koba because he told Koba I didn't find anything on CCTV. I think he lied to him to see it because I think he knew possibly who it might have been,
Okay.
and but he didn't want to tell anybody. And then the paint that he scratched off Koba's car, he probably did a match to look at the car.
Okay.
So that's how I think I see because he's still a cop. He's still undercover in a way.
Right.
So he probably uses network to like locate that car. Um,
The other thing, as we're talking about it, is again, we now know that Sean and Elliot are working for the same person, right? Singer. Could it have been possible that Singer was aware of Sean's location and therefore gave that information to Elliot?
it's possible,
Hmm.
only, but I don't know because like it's so unpredictable. You don't know. Somebody if you give Elliot Sean's location, who's to say that Sean wouldn't have killed him or vice versa? Like, there's no way to predict that outcome of them finally seeing each other face to face.
Right.
So I don't think Singer is that bold to do that because
Hmm.
like if Singer would have done that, Singer would have told Sean, "Hey, Elliot's involved. You don't kill Elliot. He's mine. He's working with us. Don't think
Ah,
about it."
but he did mention that to Sean during the reunion, because again, Elliot is tailing Sean. Sean's parked somewhere over, looking the city of London, and he gets rammed, in the back, right? And he comes out with the gun, and he's looking at the car, that rammed into him, and then Elliot creeps up on him, right?
Hmm.
And so they're back in Sean's car talking, and that's when Sean does actually reveal that, yeah, Singer said that you're off limits. I can't touch you. So there had to have been an understanding, like, from the get-go, because if Singer had any inclination whatsoever that Sean is a loose cannon, especially towards the guy who like attempted to kill him, he had to say, "Hey, we have Elliot for our reasons, and he's working. Like, we need you to stay away from him, and you do what you're
That's a
meant
good
to
point.
do, and don't interfere whatsoever." You see what I'm saying?
That's a good point. No, that's a good point. I forgot about that element. It's
Yeah,
just damn, Sean is so God, he's such a loose cannon, man. Like entrust Sean to not cross that boundary is that's ballsy. It's ballsy.
yeah, for sure. Did you think anything more was going to come out of that? I say reunion, like it's a happy, like, oh my God, son, I see you. But did you think they would come to blows? Were you expecting a little bit more?
No, I expected Elliot to pretty much say, "Hey, I don't miss on purpose. I don't miss on accident. Like you're here because I wanted you to be here." I
Mm,
expected more of like boasting from him, from Eddie's perspective. But
hmm.
nah, it went the way I thought it would go. Because at that point, Sean is at his advantage. He has Sean's gun. He's in the
Yeah,
back seat. What more can Sean do at that point? But it was pretty cool to see those guys in the same scene after what happened in the finale.
absolutely. I mean, talk about something that, for one, I didn't think would ever happen. I never thought we'd get the return of Sean Wallace after after season one, but I'm so happy he's back. And Joe Cole just has like this presence. Like, first of all, he looks like a damn Culkin.
He
Okay, he
does.
could he could be related to Macaulay Culkin, like, with a distant cousin or something. He's just, I don't know, they look alike, but he definitely has this presence of like, come fuck with me, and you're gonna motherfucking find out, right?
Yeah.
And I say that going into this last portion of episode 3 about Floriana. Jesus Christmas. In fucking sane. So, as I've said, we know that Lale's people are working for Koba. They're not
Mhm.
making much of a profit by working for Koba, right? And we did see one of Lale's people be tortured by Koba's associate. Like, what was it, the middle finger? I actually couldn't watch that scene because I just don't like seeing digits removed
Yeah.
from people. So I think it was a man's middle finger was like completely chopped off, right? And
Yeah.
I'm just like, no. So, and because Floriana is witnessing this and seeing how much this impacts Lale's people, she then comes to Lale and says, I have a proposition for you. I control the money. I don't think, that Sean is going to be the savior that you think he's going to be. But because I have access to the money, I want to support your business. But it comes with, what do you call it? Restrictions, right?
Mhm.
Talk about the final scene when everyone's getting together and just what went through your mind with that.
I knew she was gonna die. No, because like sh- all all Sean needed was a reason,
Yeah.
and her dumb ass gave Sean that reason. Like the fact that you told Lolly this, which Lolly's working closely with Sean, and at this point there's friction between Sean and Lolly, sexual friction. So you know that it's gonna be, it's gonna be an issue, and it's gonna get back to Sean. There's no
Yeah.
way that Lolly, there's no way you tell Lolly that and Sean does not know about that, because at this point, Lolly saved Sean's life for a reason,
Yeah.
And I mean, I know he cares for Sean, but at the same time, she did it to save her own skin, her people's skin, to like get weapons. So
Right.
she's gonna give Sean the upper hand and then say, "Hey, old girl over here is offering me X, Y, and Z. Just letting you know what you gonna do about this. What you got? How you gonna trump this?" And it's because Lolly's a business person.
Mhm.
So when they're all meeting together and Sean finds out, headshot to the head.
I
It's
mean, it was crazy because the way that it was being approached, how Floriana just kind of like positions herself like, I'm in charge. You know, I have the means. I am the big shot here. And because Marion's there, Lale's there, Sean's there. I think one of Lale's people is also there, kind of just with the gun. And you see like the camera panning around with everyone present, and then you hear the gunshot,
hmm
and then it just go through Floriana's head, and I'm like, what the actual fuck? Like, he really did that. Like, he
hmm
motherfucking did it, because earlier in the episode, he had asked Marion, like, how does it work between you and Floriana? Like, do you beg? Do whatever? What is she to you? And Marion says, Floriana saved my life. And Sean says, well, then she's family. We don't do that to family, Sean. Huh. I mean, maybe some families do. I don't know. I don't support that. Okay. Unless it's Targaryen related. That's a
I
different
just,
story.
but I just have a feeling that the kinslaying is not over.
Oh, God, no.
It's not over because Marion and Sean want the same thing, which is control the interests of the gang.
Yep.
And now that Sean's back in the fold, you would think as a mother that would change your motivations. Like, hey, my son's alive. Let him take the helm of being, you know, his father. But
Mm-hmm.
Marion wants power too, and it's almost like the Cersei effect. Like
Oh, God, yes.
Cersei, this ongoing narrative, like Cersei loves her children. Like for 7 years, we heard that, but the underlying thing was Cersei loves power
Oh, yeah.
more. it's and it's same thing with Mary. Like, yeah, Mary. I'm not saying Mary doesn't love her children. She loves her children. She loves them
Sure.
to death. But I think what happened to Finn was a tall tale sign that I got looking for myself. The man that I called my husband that I loved for this long betrayed me.
Mm-hmm.
What does she think? What makes her think that her sons or her daughter or somebody in her family won't betray her?
That's fair.
She's already seen it once. So that's I think. And for her, like in her mind, is like I've lost everything, and like I have nothing else to gain. I want power, and I want the streets back.
Yeah. I mean, and she operated. independently for a year, right? Not knowing that Sean was alive, of course. And so yeah, you get that little taste of power, and it's like I want it all. Like
Hmm.
give it all to me. But I think for her to have witnessed Floriana's death and by the hand of her own son, I mean that probably puts Marion in a completely different frame of mind,
Hmm.
because then we see her there in the room with the baby, and the baby's crying, and Billy's we know that Billy struggles mentally and
Hmm.
with drugs and things like that. So like all these things are going on, and he's trying to like cover his ears. He's hearing the baby crying. Sean's fucking in the other room, with Lale, and I was like, oh, okay, so like this is some Game of Thrones shit. You go and kill someone, you go fuck. Like that's sounds about right, right? So yeah, there's definitely a lot going on, of course, and with Billy, I'm focusing on Billy right now because going into talking about episode 4 of Gangs of London, Billy is kind of taken to the baby, right? Like he's kind of caring for her and holding her, and which he kind of did, with his sister Jackie, right? Jackie had her child. They were living together wherever in peace, and he seemed to be in a good place, right? Like I was
Hmm.
like, okay, so now because Billy knows that his brother killed Floriana, the mother of the baby, he probably is doing this for two reasons: taking care of the baby. One, to keep the baby away from Sean,
Hmm.
and two, obviously, to keep the baby away from Marion, which is later said directly to Marion about when Billy takes Rose. I'm not quite sure how to pronounce her name.
Is it Rosita?
Rose or Rosa, something.
Okay.
Anyway, Billy, throughout episode 4 is, holding her and kind of tending to her, right? But then at the very end, we see him in a church, see the priest come by, and Billy turns to the baby who's in like a car seat and says, be better than us. Takes off his necklace, gives it, leaves it there, and then has like what I assume is a wad of money, in an envelope, and leaves it there. And then he walks away. You hear the baby crying. He abandoned her in a church, which is something that's done, I guess.
Catholic church,
And
a Catholic church like that.
yeah.
I ain't leave no kid in no Catholic church. It's
Terrible.
just me.
Yeah, listen, you're not okay. But when he comes back and Marion's all like, "Oh, well, where's the baby?" And he's like, "Oh, I took her somewhere safe to protect her from you." And she's like, "Oh, fine." Walks out of the
She was
room, and
so
it's
calm about it. I was surprised how calm she was.
well, she kind of first griped at him like that wasn't your decision to make, and he's like, "No, it kind of was. Like this is in her best interest. It's not about you. Like it's about her, and I'm gonna keep her away from you." So it's like, all right, Billy, like go on with your bad self.
Hmm.
You're doing the right thing, or you're trying to do the right thing, even though your family's all fucked up, and it is what it is. But talking about the beginning of this episode, because we're back and Luan's in the picture again, right? We're picking up from when his house was raided, wife was kidnapped. He's obviously given up the location for Marion, and now Koba is back. Koba's back, but he brings along Ed Dumani. Please explain what's happening with Luan's wife.
Yeah, so pretty much, so in episode 1, we find out Luan's fighting for his life. He saves his daughters, but his wife gets kidnapped.
Right.
So after the betrayal that Luan did for damn near a year, buying weapons and all that behind Koba's back, Koba's like, look, I want you to bring everybody loyal to the table. We're gonna have a discussion about this. We're gonna I want to see everybody in the eyes. I want to have this conversation. And if you do that, you might get your wife back. So his wife is buried on the ground in a casket with an air
Buried alive.
buried alive on the ground. Yeah,
Good
with air
God.
supply. And Luan's like, "How do I know she's alive?" He's like, and he shows a camcorder of her on the ground, freaking out. He's like, "Look, this air supply down there. I don't know how long this air supply is gonna last. It all depends on you. If you can get this shit done for me." So
Mm-hmm.
that's what lead things are with Koba and Luan.
Mm-hmm.
So it's crazy. It's crazy because like now it's just race against time now. of like trying to get these deeds done and save your wife at the same time.
And not only that, but Ed Dumani was present when the wife was being buried. Now, this is to some degree on the heels of him losing his only son, right?
Hmm.
So now it's like kind of like, what are we doing? My interpretation with what Ed might be thinking is, why are we doing this? Why are we doing this to families? And I know Koba, as you eloquently put, if you're stupid enough to have a family in this kind of business, like, they're fair game. And Ed, I think, feels different about that. Or maybe he's always felt that families were off limits, right? But I think it's more so on the heels of losing his only son. And so,
I don't know because Ed shot Marianne in season one, and Marianne, that's like his best friend's wife.
yeah, but his best friend was fucking another woman and stealing money. And
That's
so,
still
like,
family
oh,
though. Like you
yeah,
know this woman
but you're
forever.
messing with business. Like, you're messing with business, though. You see what I'm saying? Like, I'm not saying it's right, but I don't know.
Mm.
I don't know. But anyway, so, Ed is, like I said, he's present, seeing the wife being buried alive. And Koba basically is doing this because he blames Luan for Marion's escape. It's like,
Mm.
oh, you gave us bad info. No, I didn't know. And of course, that makes Luan feel and do things, right? Because he later will get Ed Dumani from his car after he's leaving his grandson's soccer game, right? He's trying to make amends with Shannon and whatnot, but, like, Luan essentially kidnaps Ed to take him to the burial site. And,
Hmm.
they're he's watching the video of his wife and seeing if she's still alive or not.
But what's
And
crazy throughout this whole time, Tamaz, who's Koba's right hand man, is tracking Luan's phone. So they know where Luan's at all times. There's
yeah,
a tracker on his phone. So
yeah, exactly. And I was like, oh wow, that sucks. Because initially I thought, okay, well, did Ed, like, tip off Koba, and that's why they showed up as Luan's trying to dig the grave. But then you see, them fighting, and then Ed actually takes the shovel and, like, smacks around, one of Koba's guys, and they all get into it. And it's like,
hmm.
okay, he's really questioning his loyalty at this point,
Hmm.
because again, now you're messing with family, you're messing with other people's wives. It's like, you just don't do that, essentially. But this is also in a world where, you launder money and drugs and traffic and all this other shit. It's like, okay, so we have, like, a moral compass when it comes to family. Sure, let's go with that. Okay, fine.
The fight scene at the I can't say gravesite, but at the burial site, it was just
Hmm.
amazing between Tamaz and
Yeah.
Luan and Ed and Tamaz's men.
Hmm.
Um, Lu- I don't know. I don't know if Luan is related to the writer of the show or the director of the show. He's always in the dopest fighting sequences in the show. It's
Yeah.
like if Elliot's 1A, he's 1B. From
Yeah.
the with the Nigerians to episode one of this season in the mansion, and
Hmm.
in episode three with the henchmen. Like
Yeah.
he's literally fighting for his life. He's beating these people's asses while like he'll knock somebody out, run to the burial site, try to shovel
Yeah.
up his wife and get, and then finally towards the end of the scene he gets knocked over the head. I thought he was dead at this point because
I
that was
thought
a
so
pretty hard.
too.
That was a hard impact to the back of the head.
Oh my god, yeah. Well, in real life he would have actually been dead. I mean,
Yeah, for sure.
there's no way. But yeah, like, to see Ed fight, Luan fight in the mud, it's raining, and like, that just, all the elements just makes things more difficult. But I had a little bit more respect for Ed at that point, just because, yes, he was kidnapped,
Hmm.
but he also, like, fought for more or less what was right. So
Hmm.
it doesn't stop there. I mean, we'll see them again towards the end of the episode, because again, I think these episodes with their endings are just done so extremely well, and they leave you with that cliffhanger feeling that it's like, God, I need to see the next episode, like, now, right?
Absolutely.
Like, I can binge watch things. I think you can binge watch things.
Hmm.
And these episodes just do an extremely great job of making you want to watch the next episode,
Absolutely.
and whatever it takes to get to that episode.
Hmm.
But with all that set aside, we do see a rift developing more so between Elliot and Singer. Basically, Elliot's kind of, threatening, hey, I'm going to tell Koba everything. I'm going to tell him about you, about the investors, about all this other shit. You know, get me out now. Get me and my dad out now. And Singer's all like, we brought you on so that when the time comes, you are going to deal with Sean Wallace. Like, you know, this is kind of your purpose. And Elliot's all like, fuck you. I'm not fucking with with Sean Wallace. Like, I'm no. He's like, I ain't doing that shit again. And I liked how Elliot, holds that kind of card in his back pocket of, I can tell Koba everything. Then what? Your whole operation is just kind of kaput, right?
Mhm.
And did you believe at all when Singer said that he was going to make the arrangements to get Elliot and his dad out?
I believed it only
Okay.
because only because one, he's law enforcement, and I think he wants Singer has a job to do. He wants the investors out of the way. He wants somebody of controlling interest at the top of the gang, top of the gang list that he can control. But at the
Hmm.
same time, I think he respects Elliot from the standpoint of his skill set and him being equally as passionate to bring down these people in London, these gangs of London. So
Yeah.
I think he does respect them, but I mean he's all about self interest first. But I think he's a man of his word
Okay.
when it comes to that. So yeah,
I just have a hard time believing anything that anyone says in this show because there's so much double crossing or Elliot like works for three different people all at
yeah,
once. He works for the
yeah.
investors, he works for Singer, he works for Koba. Like, I'm
Four,
pretty sure.
FBI, the authorities as
Oh, and
well.
the authorities, right, right. Yeah. So like bro needs a vacation, okay? Like he needs to get some, he needs to drink whatever he wants to drink, and he needs a vacation. So
I think the show does a great job too of like really showcasing that the effect that Elliot's going through because I think there's a scene where Shannon's talking to Elliot like, "Have you slept?" It's like, "No, I haven't slept." And he's
yeah.
drinking. There's a scene he's drinking more. Like it's
Hmm.
like as badass as Elliot is, it shows the human element of the toll that it's taking working for all these people as an informant undercover, and like it comes to a point where it's like somebody else's word is gonna go against another person's word that you're working for, and what do you do then? And I don't know, his hair's longer, he has more age in his face. I don't know his makeup or whatever, but he looks stressed, visibly stressed.
Oh yeah.
And I love like the realism that the writer and the directors brought to Elliot's physical features at the end of this point in the season.
Absolutely. Yeah. I mean, even just with the premiere of him taking all those people out in the laundromat and being nearly strangled to death by like a sequined fabric or something, like Jesus. Yeah. So to say he's stressed is an understatement. The boy needs a long ass vacation. But
Hmm.
and you brought up Shannon, which leads me to my next point about these funds are in question because now Florian is dead. We've said earlier that Marion does not have access to the funds because Finn saw to that, right? But before they cremate, I'm going to say that nicely, cremate Floriana, Marion is trying to get into Floriana's phone, the
Hmm.
thumbprint to get access to the funds, and she's starting to see that okay, we only have a third of what we originally had, right? There's only 500 million left in the account. So that's when, things start moving and Marion's like, okay, we need to find someone who can get into the funds and like move things around. And in the midst of it, you see Asif on the phone, presumably talking to the investors and saying,
Hmm.
yes, we've recovered a lot of it. There's only 500 million left, but we'll get it done, right?
I think the lawyer's name is Rutherford. Is what he goes
Rutherford,
by. Yeah.
exactly. Yeah, you're right. So Marion has an idea about who can help, get these funds moved and has access, and she goes to Shannon. Shannon, whom we find out that it was Marion who got her out of jail,
Hmm. Not
which
Ed, not Alex,
no,
not Elliot.
Marion.
Yeah, Marion. Yep.
Yeah, I was like, oh, like okay, like that's kind of cool. Like despite all the shit that went down with the Dumanis, like Marion still has some love for Shannon, because and I guess because of Danny, her son, right? And doing whatever it takes to protect the family. And
Hmm.
Shannon does make make a comment in the episode about how everything she does, it's for Danny. You know, it's
Hmm.
in his best interests and what have you. And it's like, okay, like cool, I can respect that as, you know, as a single mom and what have you. So did you expect Shannon to go the extreme when she does go to Rutherford's office and says to him, "Hey, I need your help with this account," slides over the paper, and then you see his bandaged hand, and he's like, slides it back. No, I can't help you. Like, did you expect her to show her hand like that?
Absolutely. Yeah, because everything because in Shannon's mind, she's on borrowed time. Like she got out of prison by luck or jail
Yeah.
out of luck by luck. Like she shot an officer. You know what I'm saying? Like there's no way you can typically that's death penalty or life in
Yeah.
prison. So in her mind, she's on borrowed time, and everything she does is for her son, is for
Mm-hmm.
Danny.
Yeah.
So and I mean she already got in bed with Marion at this point, but I believe it's even more supercharged now that her brother's gone
Mm,
and knows that this is not a game. Like my brother's gone, my father failed him, my father failed me. I have nobody else to trust. I got to
yeah.
do what I got to do to protect myself and my son. So
Mm-hmm.
as a mother, you're gonna do extreme measures to protect your children. And
Yeah.
I think this is all for Danny. I don't see this as I'm just doing this shit just for the fuck of it, and just to get power. I'm doing this as a way out and to get
Mm-hmm.
the fuck out of London eventually. So no, I wasn't surprised at all.
Yeah, I mean, when she pulled out the gun and then the silencer, you know, to screw onto it, and it's like
Mhm.
she's like, "Oh, I'm sure you'll find a way to like help us." And then it's like, "What the actual f are you doing, Shannon?" And come to find out that Elliot's next mark, per the investors, is Rutherford. And so when he comes to the office location, right? He walks into the office and sees that Rutherford is face down on the desk, blood just,
Pool of blood.
pool of blood, right? And then, Shannon, I don't remember who makes the move first, if it was Shannon or if it was him, but like now their guns are pointing to one another and they kind of like fight off a little bit, then guns pointing again. And then like the office assistant comes in and then immediately like runs off. And I'm like, oh, this is just bad. Like, this
They
is
left
just,
her alive. I mean,
I know.
that's like there's a witness now.
Yes.
Two black people, two black assailants leaving a crime scene, killing a lawyer. Like that's not good for anybody, right? So
Uh,
I
yeah.
I was surprised that they let her alive. They didn't kidnap, they didn't take her with her, take
Yeah.
her with them. So
Yeah, but Elliot was surprised that like Shannon, like, what the fuck did you just do? Like, why are you here killing people? She's like, everything
mm,
I do for Danny. I'm like, oh, okay, that means killing lawyers. Cool. So yeah, they're reunited, very brief, and Elliot's kind of trying to talk her out of it, but she's just like, no, I don't want to hear it. And then you see like the tension, the sexual kind of like tension between
yeah.
them. It's like, oh, they're gonna fuck later. Like, there's no question about that. Like,
But we got to mention this too. Like so in season one, the plan was Elliot and Shannon had a plan to leave together.
yes,
So when the investors found out about Shannon and
yeah,
Danny, they used it as a pawn against Elliot. Like, hey, if you even try to think about going against plan, we're gonna kill those two.
yeah,
It's why Elliot left Shannon alone, and why Shannon was so pissed because she was like, "You abandoned me and Danny," and
yeah.
to make good and to kind of like keep a code. Like I think Elliot said something to the effect, "Were you trying to find another daddy again? Like why are you coming like this?" And he
Oh
said it
yeah,
to protect himself because he didn't want the truth to come out why he left him alone.
yeah.
But
Did we lose you, Frank? Hope we didn't lose you. But yeah, so I'm gonna see if Frank's connection has stalled out a little bit. So hopefully he'll be back momentarily. But yeah, so just seeing the reunion between Shannon and Elliot was kind of like, okay, we're getting all these reunions out of the way, and it's really just interesting to see the dynamics between all of these people and how they're just working. They're all kind of working for the same people in a weird way, but like they're also working against each other. So this was a really really interesting reunion, to say the least. Especially like you don't expect that your mark is going to be handled by someone else, right? It's really funny how that happened. So, with that being said, we're going to come to the towards the end of this episode. Frank, you're back. We lost you for a
What
second.
happened there? I'm sorry about that.
No, it's fine. Basically, I was just wrapping up to say that to see their reunion, Shannon and Elliot, was really interesting, just because it's kind of like they're all working for the same people, but they're all working against each other at the same
Mm-hmm.
time. If that makes any sense, it was really
Mm-hmm.
strange to see. But at the same time, I was really happy to see that Elliot and Shannon were reunited once again, because it's like, yeah, they're gonna do the nasty at some point. They're gonna get back together at some point.
Yeah, but I wanted to mention before my internet went bad, that so Miss Kane, who's pretty much the representative for the investors, she's the woman that's giving Elliot all the orders, who to kill, things of that nature.
Yeah.
Elliot pleads to her and makes a deal with Miss Kane that, hey, leave, spare Shannon and Danny.
Mm-hmm.
Do not bother them, and because she's pissed. Well, the
Yeah.
investors are pissed because
Yeah.
now there's a witness. That secretary is a witness, and she says to Elliot, like, you're not indispensable. You are. you know we can offer you too, as a warning
Mm-hmm.
to. So it makes me wonder if they're gonna have to like tie some loose ends with that secretary that got away.
I mean, they probably would, because the fact that Elliot didn't give up, that it was Shannon that was there. And I was just saying before you pop back on that, for Elliot to have his mark be an attorney's office, and his mark was taken out by someone else, like, that's not something you would expect,
Hmm.
especially from Shannon. Maybe in Elliot's mind, he definitely did not expect to see Shannon
Hmm.
there. But yeah, you're right. The investors are not happy with what recently happened, and they are forced to deal with the police report and the secretary, and it's like, oh shit,
Yeah,
the shitteth
absolutely.
hitteth the fanneth.
So the plan, so Singer still wants the USB drive that has all the information to expose the investors. He makes a deal with Elliot. Say, hey, tomorrow you can flee the country with you and your daddy. Um, and then he finds out that Sean is having the deal is having a private meeting with Koba as well. So this is after the big shootout in the previous episode of
Yep.
Sean attacking Koba's people, and he confirms that Sean is going to meet with Koba, and there's going to have a big boss meeting about you know their ambitions and what each side wants for London.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, so that comes to a head as well.
That whole scenario was wild. I mean,
Hmm.
because again, Sean has made promises to Lale and her people about providing funds, arms, what have you, and ultimately Lale's like, listen, we want to be rid of Koba. So when Sean does get word that, hey, Koba's calling a meeting with all the big bosses, like everyone's going to be there, Sean's like, this is our
Hmm.
opportunity. This is the one chance that we have to move on Koba and take him out. And Lale, I want you to lead the attack. And this was the reason that Sean wanted Lale so badly when making the arrangement with Singer, was that she's got military training, she's got like the motivation, and she's the right person for this. Not only that, but he also wants to bang her every few days, as one does. But yeah, so this is an extremely personal vendetta for Lale to go against Koba. But when we see that the meeting is being held at what looks to be like a boxing ring, which I thought was really interesting, because at one point there was a conversation between Koba and Elliot in a previous episode, again at the boxing ring, and we know that Elliot's dad was a former boxer, right? So I was like, are we doing this purposefully to kind of like taunt Elliot, like, pa pa, I'm gonna beat your ass here, but I digress. But with this meeting with the big bosses, Koba is trying to say like, oh, I was gonna announce the man that did the right thing, but instead I bring you two men who did the wrong thing. And you see Luan like half dead on the boxing ring floor, and
Hmm.
Ed Dumani just there being held by Koba's right hand man, who's bloodied as well. And it's just like, why I've never understood why people like just kind of drag things out in the sense of making their point. Like if you're gonna kill them, just fucking kill them. Like you make your point fast by doing that. But no, he wants to like make the speech and what have you. But in the meantime, Frank, we're seeing Sean and Lale's plan being moved um and real quick, Basim, who was killed by Sean.
Hmm.
There was talk about retaliation for him and the young girl that was with Basim when he died,
His
uh,
niece.
his niece Saba.
Hmm.
You know, she basically is pleading to, I don't know how this man's related to anyone, but basically saying like I want to stay in London, like I can learn fast, I can do the drives and what have you. So she and her cousin are making a drug delivery, and it's to the same location as the big boss meeting.
The writing's kind of nuts because London's a big London is New York on steroids. For all
Yeah,
these people being in the same fucking place at the same damn time, it's like, come
yeah.
on, man, we got to be a little more creative with these storylines of these people popping up in the same place.
But I wonder if that was orchestrated purposefully. You know what I mean?
But what could she have done? And if gunfire goes ablaze, what could she have done? She has no weapons. She has no fighting ability. Like what? I mean,
No.
at this point you just a innocent bystander at this point.
Yeah, but now she's found herself in two separate events that that resulted in gunfire, right? And people that she knows being killed, and it was just nuts. I'm like, this poor girl is gonna have like so much trauma for the rest of her life. Like,
Hmm.
girl, you need some therapy like fast.
Hmm.
So once the gunfire starts, there's it's eventually going into the big boss meeting, and I don't know if like everyone got shot up, like literally everyone there, but Luan escapes.
Yeah, Luan and Ed both escape.
Right. So Luan escapes with one of Lale's men because Lale's man on the inside was the one to give the signal, right?
Correct.
And Luan, and I felt for Luan at this point because he turns to look at Ed and he's like, no, we need to save him. We need to get him out too. And I'm just like, this is so strange because it seemed like Luan was against Ed in the beginning of the season.
Hmm.
But I think because Ed took him to the burial site, and even though he didn't actually like help him try to dig up the wife, he did, you know, fight off Koba's men, right? So I don't
Hmm.
know. I don't know. It's a very interesting dynamic relationship. What are your thoughts on this whole scene?
On to my for Ed and Luan.
Yeah, with Luan and Ed, and then just of course the gunfire and everyone being shot at.
I think I think the enemy of my enemy is my friend. So Ed and Luan were already on thin ice, but I think once Ed showed good faith and brought Luan to the burial site where his wife was at,
Hmm.
it created an alliance. They both because Ed knows Koba is just off. He's too unpredictable.
Yeah,
Same way with Sean and Ed comes off as a guy who's all about order, cunningness, and a plan put in place. And I think with him doing what he did for Luan, it showed Luan good faith to where there's going to be what appears to look like an alliance being put in place to thwart Koba out of control and out of power. So
yeah,
you need to keep as many key components alive as possible because for the long con, you want to overthrow this guy who has London on his knees as far as power and controlling interests of guns, drugs, women, you name it, you name it.
right.
So, and it goes to the old adage: when you threaten a man's family, that man has nothing to lose. And Luan, don't get me wrong, Luan has done some fucked up shit too. The
Yeah,
Albanians are ruthless as well,
yep.
but I've become a fan of Luan because how far Luan's willing to go to protect his.
Hmm.
And Luan wants out. Like he's trying to create an extra strategy for his daughters and his wife.
Yeah,
And I think Luan's gonna be a pivotal character going forward because he's a guy that's not motivated by money. He's not motivated by power. He's motivated by family. And there's
yeah.
very few factions on this show is motivated by anything outside of power and money.
Yeah.
So I want to see where this goes. I think him and Ed are going to play a huge part in this alliance moving forward. So
I agree. I definitely agree. And the actor that plays Luan, he gives me Gerard Butler vibes, like from Law
he does.
Abiding Citizen.
He does. He
You know
does.
what I'm saying? He's kind of got like that persona and just kind of, not to always quote Captain America, do whatever it takes, or I can do
Hmm.
this all day kind of thing. It's he definitely gives me Gerard Butler vibes, but more so with like law abiding citizen, just
Hmm.
the moves and counter moves and that kind of thing. Um, I don't know. I really do enjoy Luan's character. He compelled me from the first time I saw him in season
Hmm.
one all the way up to now, just because I think he's definitely got a lot more to offer when it comes to being like this crime boss, if you will. It's just we haven't like really developed it all the way, right? Because he's always like working for someone else, right?
Yeah.
So it'll be interesting to see if he and Ed join forces and what kind of shit will come out from that.
Yeah.
But I thought it was crazy, just with like all the bloodshed and not only was that one location where the crime bosses were, the Lale and her team were hitting multiple spots, right? And I think there were the multiple spots that each crime boss like controls, right? Or am I wrong?
Yeah. So prior to you talking about Sean?
Yes.
Yeah. So prior to the it was the plan came together because they had a Lolly and Sean had to like move the plan up a lot faster. So Sean works very swiftly with Lolly
Hmm.
to create I think 8 teams, 8 gangs,
Yeah.
8 gang teams to attack.
Hmm.
So and it worked for both of them because for one it gave Sean the ability to send a message to Koba saying that hey, there's another faction here that's not afraid of you. But at the
Hmm.
same time, Koba and Asif are working together.
Yeah.
So and Lolly hates Asif. So with
Yeah.
that attack on the gangs in the boxing room that building, it weakened Asif's infrastructure as
Hmm.
well. And that's what Lolly wants because Asif is bleeding her people dry
Hmm.
of profits and everything. So it was a
Yeah.
2 for 1 deal. Um, warn Koba, let Koba know that there's no player in town, and focus asset infrastructure.
Absolutely. And I like with, obviously they're hitting all these spots, but then when Saba, the young girl who the niece of Bassem is discovered, she and her cousin are brought
I think
to
Foz is the cousin's name. Foz or
Foz. You're
Faz.
right.
Yeah.
Yeah, Saba and Foz. They're brought to Sean after the bloodshed, and
Hmm.
he gets down to their level and says, I want you to give a message to Koba that Sean Wallace is coming for him. And it's like, oh my God. Like, that was incredible. I mean, how much this girl may know about Sean Wallace or the Wallaces in general, I don't know. But
Yeah.
for her to be a survivor of this bloodshed and then to go to Koba and to give that message, I can only imagine what kind of shenanigans are going to happen in the coming episodes, because I haven't watched all the episodes. I know I think George did. I don't know if you've watched them as well, Frank. um but yeah, it's gonna be oh, it's gonna be wild. I'm here for it. I'm here for the violence because I liked how the reporters were describing London as London
Hmm.
is on fire. And you see Singer from the helicopter who's like with binoculars and like watching the whole city burn. And it's like, okay, are you pleased with this? Like, is this what you want? Like, are you okay to see with your city burning up like this? Like, come on.
Hmm. It's I don't know if this is a good idea by Sean because you
Yeah.
if you're Sean, your greatest asset was operating as a ghost. You could have been operating as a ghost for forever, not forever, but for a much longer time. Take out Koba's infrastructure, take out Koba's men, take out Asif's infrastructure, and then just go in and
I think we might have lost Frank again. Oh no. Let's see if we can get him back. So I can see Frank's point about this not being a good move on Sean's part. Okay, we're back with Frank. Let's see. Let's see if the internet connection
yeah.
will work now. Oh no, I think we lost him again. Darn it. But to kind of elaborate on what Frank was talking about, that Sean could have definitely operated from behind the scenes as the ghost to just hit Koba and everyone else where it hurts without having to be discovered. And I'll make this point too when Frank comes back, hopefully when he comes back. There was a conversation that Billy and Sean have about basically living up to their father's legacy. And the problem is that Sean wants to be his father, but hasn't grasped the idea that he is not his father. He can't do things the way that his father did because his father was his own person. Sean's got to do things his own way. And so by operating more in the forefront as opposed into the shadows and being a ghost, there's going to be some pros and cons to all of this, of course. I think there are going to be more cons than pros because maybe we'll actually see Sean die and stay dead, and it just won't be good. It just won't be good for the whole operation, and who knows? We'll have to see. But hopefully, Frank will be joining us once again. Here he is, the man, the legend, Frank Cooper.
I'm never streaming from a hotel ever again in life.
Well, Frank, what I was just saying is that the conversation between Billy and Sean was interesting because, with Sean operating, should he have operated as a ghost, I think he could have gotten a lot farther along with hitting his enemies, right? But there was a conversation between Billy and Finn and Sean about, you're not Finn, you're not Dad. You can't do the things that Dad did. You've got to do things your own way. And I think Sean is really taking that to heart.
Absolutely, absolutely. And I think if Sean thought this through, if you operate in Ghost Protocol, what is Koba going to do? Koba's going to question every single gang member in his network, and probably kill people from his own inside. Probably kill people within his own network and become paranoid. You
Yep.
could have you could have made the empire crumble from within and implode, but you show your face out of hubris to let them know that, hey, I'm back. Like it wasn't smart. You got to use your death as a advantage to
Hmm.
crippling them. So
I agree. I agree. Well, the happy ending of this particular episode, if there are any happy endings here in Kings of London, is that once Luan does escape this shootout, he goes back to the burial site to free his wife. And at first, you think, "Oh no, it's too late," and then
hmm
you hear her gasp, and he's just a lot of crying, a lot of screaming, a lot of wailing on Luan's part in this episode. Kind of creeped me out a little bit, but for his
he
sake, his wife's alive.
he has to have some military training. He's been through way too much fighting scenes, survival scenes to just be a regular gang lord. Like
Yeah,
this dude has expert training, like for sure. And shout out to the wife to like still be down with this dude. Like you got kidnapped and buried alive, and like to be so happy. Like you're the reason why you're underground. You're the reason why your dogs almost got kidnapped as well. Like
yeah.
that's some toxic love right there, dog.
I mean, they're in it. They took their vows serious, I guess. So,
For sure.
but yeah. So that will conclude our recap of Gangs of London season 2, episodes 2 through 4. Hopefully, we won't have to do a bulk review for coming episodes, but hey, do what you got to do, right? So,
Love it.
yep. So hopefully we will be back next week. We're going to try to get George back. It's been a while since George has been on the Watchers Pod. We miss having him here. We miss having his hot takes and such. So hopefully he'll be able to join us next week. Frank, for Gangs of London.
Let's do it. I'm so excited. I'm so
All
excited.
right. And in the meantime, before we wrap, we do have a couple of exciting pods coming to y'all next week. We're ranking, or no, we're not ranking. We're drafting MCU characters on
What
Monday.
what?
It's gonna be wild. It's gonna be
I
crazy.
can't I cannot wait. I cannot wait. I'm gonna fuck the draft with some quality picks, and it's gonna Justin's gonna be real pissed. I'm gonna bend the rules a little bit in this one. I can't wait.
Oh man, yeah, that should be a good one. So we do invite everyone to join us for Monday's pod with drafting MCU characters. Tuesday, or if not, at some point next week, Yellowstone will be covered by Frank and company. Y'all are killing it with them views for Yellowstone. I did not realize just how popular this show is.
I love conservative whites, man. They're supporting our show. The Cowboys, the Trumpers,
Oh my god.
they are playing a big role in our viewership. Right? So thank y'all guys. I appreciate it.
Appreciate it. Yes, a minority-driven pod, but y'all are here for it. So thank you very much for that.
Absolutely, absolutely.
Oh man. So yeah, be sure to join us next week for those two pods. But in the meantime, don't forget to follow us on Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram using @Watchers Basement. Use the same hashtag Watchers Basement to help grow our audience. We are also on the road to 200 subscribers. And as of time of recording, we're at 181, Frank. Like that's awesome.
Let's get it.
Let's get it. And then lastly, of course, our pods are available on Apple Podcasts, Google Podcasts, and Spotify, thanks to anchor.fm. Be sure to give us a 5-star rating. It helps us out. And lastly, we just want to thank everyone who's joined us for today's live chat or live stream, and those who watch the replay. We appreciate it. Let us know what your thoughts are about Gangs of London, and be sure to tune in to our future pods. So for Frank and myself, we're out of here. We'll see y'all next time.
Be safe out there.